They're purposefully leaving me out of their lives to punish me for a crime I did not commit.
Welcome back to my channel. It's Monday, April 28th. So Sister Wives, it was quite the episode last night. In fact, Kody and Robyn were in their fine stuff forms. But it was actually Janelle that stole the show when she said to the camera that Kody can just go run off into the sunset with his diesel jeans model after forcing her and the other wives to live through all of the hard times with him when they had no money. But Robyn, who is the diesel jeans model, gets all of the benefits, reaps all of the rewards. And Kody finally got his prize. So if you're wondering if the women saw the podcast where Kody called Robyn his diesel jeans model, the answer would be yes. So Kody and Robyn's relationship obviously became the reason why the family fell apart. Kody's lack of attention to the other women, the lack of resources, the way he mistreated people, and now we're left with the aftermath. And it feels like a lot of these conversations that they're having on the show are the same information, the same conversation, the same gripes, the same annoying things that they all are going through. They're all at different places and they're unraveling. But Meri and Janelle got together at Coyote Pass to talk about the division of the property and whether or not they're going to be able to sell. And Janelle and Meri talk about where Kody and Robyn's properties are, where their properties are, and what would happen if Kody were to sell the property today. They spent quite a bit of time talking about the money side of how their family worked and operated, and they were discussing how Kody put their name arbitrarily on these property pieces. And Meri actually said that she fought back when he placed her name on only one parcel and asked questions. And those were the questions that he didn't want asked, and apparently he then got people in the family to gang up on her and tell her that it was wrong for her to ask questions, and I'm assuming those people were Robyn. I questioned him on that, and I got in trouble for questioning. Yeah, like there was a couple of people in the family that were not happy with me for questioning, like, why is he interesting? Because when you would say something, he would do this thing like, well, you're not being a team player. Like, he'd make you feel bad for bringing up a question. Do you know what I mean? And then he'd get other people on board. But, you know, to keep the peace, I sort of just was like, whatever. I had to pay off a lot of debt that I used to support the family when the years were really, really tight in Lehigh. If you need a translation, I can speak Janelle and Meri, and I can read through the lines, and I understand what they're talking about, and they're talking about Robyn. They're talking about Robyn. So Meri got upset about how the land was divided, and she confronted Kody about it. And then he used Robyn, who ganged up on her, and told her that it wasn't her place or her right to question how the land was divided. And it actually, a portion of that conversation happened out on the property at the breakup, where Robyn said that she needed her parcel, and Meri said, well, I need my 2, and this 2, and that 2, and Robyn's like, but I need 4. That was at the end. And I believe that that was an ongoing fight. So Robyn, even at the end of them relationship, was like, I still need 4 acres, Meri, you don't need it. Okay, so Meri is talking about how she tried to fight for what was hers. And Robyn said no, and so did Kody. And then Janelle slips in there, that while they were in Lehigh, she went into debt, and she had to pay debt off to support other people in the family who could not afford or contribute now. In fairness, when they were in Lehigh, Christine had a lot of debt, and she went and declared bankruptcy Kody, and Kody and Meri took declared bankruptcy, and who brought in a lot of debt when they came into the family, it was Robyn. So they were just trying to get out of all of their debt with Christine, declaring bankruptcy. And then suddenly, Robyn comes in with insurmountable debt, isn't working. And then Kody basically forces Janelle to go further into debt, and she's left with the debt, pays off Robyn's debt, and then also has to pay Robyn's debt off still. So really what I'm hearing is that Robyn transferred the debt that she owed from her previous marriage, where she spent money she didn't have on things she didn't need, and then she made Janelle pay off her debt from her previous marriage, and that left Janelle in a position of having to pay the debt off. So that's what they're talking about. At least that's how I take it. Him and Robyn and Janelle, if we could just have a conversation and just be like, this is fair, we put this money into the family that was supposed to be for the family, and now it's fair that we get this. Kody and Robyn don't just get to benefit from things that I contributed to, they don't get to keep it all. They keep complaining about fairness when it's me and Robyn who have dropped so much more money on Coyote Pass, watching Kody say with a straight face that he and Robyn contributed more money to Coyote Pass than anyone else is actually comical. And then also watching him with a straight face.
It's a weird place to be where you had this big family, and it's a big...
Which you didn't see say that Hep at $160,000 more than anyone else. for Coyote Pass is a lie. It's a lie, it's Ailey. And it's a lie with what money did he have that he used for that he didn't take from someone else. They all had the same income, all of them 4 years. Some of them had double income because they were working side jobs and also giving that money to Kody. So what job side hustle did Robyn have that contributed $160? You were zero, more than anyone else to Coyote Pass. And then on top of that, for him to act like he and Robyn have given more money to anyone else to pay off family debt. He said the sale of Robyn's house paid off family debt. That's not true. Because on the show, she said that the money from the sale of her home was sitting in equity, waiting for Coyote Pass. So was it used to pay off family debt, or did it sit in equity and just sit there? Waiting to pay off Coyote Pass and to build a house, we all know Robyn probably spent all the money. And they're just lying to try to cover up the fact that Robyn spent all the money, and then for Meri to say with a straight face that she did. This is amazing because she said Robyn and Kody don't get to benefit from what I contributed. They don't get to just take it all. They handed over money Meri and Janelle to Kody and Robyn for the down payment of the McMansion that I'm sure they never got paid back. And all of this fighting over money is just, And on the one hand, I get angry for them and I'm like frustrated. And then on the other hand, I'm like, how are you so blind? How are you so, wrapped up in this? And then on the other hand, it's like this decades-long con. So it's like, how do you even see straight when you're with a malignant narcissist like Kody? But, they bring in lawyers not to sue Kody, but they bring in lawyers to put pressure on him to force him that he has to do what's right. And if that was all it took to get him to finally bend good for them, because I highly doubt a resolution would have been made without the pressure they put on him in this show. They put this all out publicly. And it forced Kody to be fair, otherwise risk being a fraud. And we all know that Cody's not going to do that because, God forbid, he not look like the perfect gentleman. My stomach is. No, because there's this unknown factor. Knots about this. But there's nothing he can do. I don't even know why I care, though that's what's frustrating. About it, he was a lot of your identity, right from those early 20s on. Believed that he still would be cool about this if he was truly the gentleman, and all the things he used to preach to our boys, he would be fair here. You know what? I'm noticing more than anything in the splits is how differently the women are processing it, and how differently each one of them held their relationship with Kody, and how differently Meri's relationship with Kody was to everyone else's, and how hard this is for her. Like, this was hard, I'm sure to say she was going to get a lawyer. It was probably hard for her to want to fight for what was hers. It was probably hard for her to do this, because even in this episode, she said she feared his wrath. His wrath? She feared his wrath. I don't know what kind of ominous thing that is, but it appears to me at least that there are two wives that were very, very, very affected by the split. Janelle seems a little bit more ambivalent, and I don't know where she's at with it, but I don't know how she viewed her marriage, but it was very clear to me that Meri was with Kody because she was in love. With him, she wanted to be his wife. She believed that they were in love, they had this beautiful life together, and she was his legal wife. And she took that very seriously, and that was her identity, was she was his legal wife and they were a couple. And that's how it worked. And watching her have to unravel all of this and kind of wonder, like, was it real? Did he care? Was this all fake? Why does he keep saying all these horrible things about me? And then if I fight this, is he going to be even worse? Is she going to say even worse things about me? Is he going to be more abusive to me? And, Janelle is more like pragmatic, like what's the worst he could do? He's already said all these terrible things about us. He's already been terrible about us. What's the worst that could happen here? And, there is a calming force here between Janelle and Meri, because even though they don't get along personally, they can work together on something, right? Like, they can figure things out together. And watching Janelle be a little bit empathetic to Meri is endearing for me at least. But Kody definitely views the money as his, as though it's like, you don't get to walk away just because it's you left the family, it's my money, so good for them for fighting for it. It's just kind of when you see the differences between how it affects them, it's just kind of an interesting, I guess, view. I'm not trying to rip you off, Meri, no matter what Janelle says about me ripping you off. That's all imagined in Janelle's head, because Janelle feels like, oh, I got divorced, so I deserve something. Something that I've been thinking about a lot when it comes to this family has to do with how families like this come Together, the dynamics at play and how hard this is for the women and how traumatic it is for them to have to share a husband, share their resources, shove them down their emotions, and then be okay with it. And then something else I've been thinking is, just like I said before, how each one of them is processing their way out of it. And we're kind of watching at least a little bit, at least enough of what they want to show us happening in real time.
Was already legitimized. Meri was legitimized, so what's the difference?
Well, I think that...
And I've seen how Janelle and Christine have been able to offer one another support and be there for each other's kids and commiserate about Kody and, but kind of maybe an emotional support. But I would venture to say that at this point, at least, in Christine's life, she's getting a lot of emotional support from her husband, David, who allows her the space and the time to vent about what she went through, which I think is great. The more I see of David, the more I like him, and the more I realize he's a really good rock, and he's really helping her unravel that, and sometimes people want to unravel things together, and sometimes people can, they find a supportive partner that can kind of help them work through things, and that's wonderful. But what I'm noticing with Janelle and Meri is that they each have issues that they need to fix, and they each can use each other and lean one at each other in a way that maybe they wouldn't have been able to with Christine, because they view things differently than her. So Janelle and Meri have a different view about the spiritual marriage and walking away. And so the way that Janelle was helping Meri on the financial side later in the episode, we see Meri trying to explain to Janelle about the spiritual marriage and why it was important for her to get a release from Kody and why it was important that she sever that tie so that there was no more connection to him. And we hear Janelle talk about this place that she finds herself in, where she still feels like they're spiritually married, and that she feels like it's a mental hang-up for her to move on. And we hear Meri encourage her to take that step, and that she would even go with her if she needed to. My church isn't a cult it's hard to get into and easy to get out of, but marriage is its own cult. I don't want to disparage marriage, but it is easy to get into, and it is hard to get out of one who said he didn't even consider himself married to me. I did tell the church leaders that, so Kody tried to explain to the producers that his church is not a cult, even though it is a cult, and that you can leave the church very easily, but you really can't. Because look at how hard it is for him to get out of his marriages. If it's so easy to leave the church, why do? You have to go to them to ask to leave and unbind your spiritual relationship. It might be physically authored to walk away, but mentally and psychologically, that's where the cult part of it comes from. Like, they keep you psychologically held in this dogma and under this control, believing that you have to abide by them. Now throw away that Meri ends up telling them, the leaders of the church, using words he's literally said on the show to prove that she has been, wants out of them. Marriage, Kody doesn't like that. And Janelle is trying to understand, how do you even go? Are you affiliated with the church? Did you have to call someone up? What do you do? And Meri explained to Janelle that it was important for her to get a spiritual divorce. And I actually understand why it was for her, as much as I don't agree that she needed to go. I understand why she did it. She made a commitment to her church, and she made a commitment to the other women in the family that when she did this, that she was spiritually tied to all of them. And if she were to not do it, then the years that she had spent with the family as the legal wife, if she did not sever the spiritual relationship that she had with Kody and the family, it's like she would be invalidating the women who chose to stay in the family with her as a legal wife and as though she were better than them. So in a way, I view this as kind of Meri, not only with her commitment to her faith, but also just another testimony to the loyalty that she had to the women, to make sure that she recognizes that, yes, I had a legal marriage, but you were just as valuable here. And so for all of us to separate, I have to disconnect myself and disconnect this so that it's almost lead by example. Now Christine didn't do this, and she didn't have to do this. They have different ways that they view things. But I understand, because of Meri's personality, why this was important. I still think it's valid. That's why I don't want to offend God. If we can talk more about it, I would go with you. If I wanted, I would do that, because just to cover all the bases, because for me, that's what I needed. I'm not dating, but if I found somebody, I would never want there to be a weird, because, barrier in my head. You know what I mean? So you were married that way. I've been married 30 years, and it had validity for me. I never worried about, so in their church, if women are not going to be with their husbands anymore, they can leave, but if they remain spiritually tied to them, they're taught that they cannot date anyone else. They cannot marry anyone else because they are sealed to their other spouse that they left for time and all eternity. And in order to keep the women in the mindset and held in that and trapped in that through fear, and they say that if she leaves and goes with another man, she's going to anger God, she's going to not hold true to her vows, she will lose her spot in heaven. And so they are told that they can get and are assured to get to the celestial kingdom so long as they endure the pain of being alone, and they almost get martyred in a way. Like, oh, well, you just stay single, be fine with not being with anyone, be alone. It's cool because then you'll still get to go to heaven. It's weird because the men are told that in order to get to heaven, they have to remain in celestial union and harmony with at least 3 women. But then at the same time, the women that leave say, and are not with the man anymore. And that the men abandon, then the women are said told, well, as long as you stay single and you don't cheat, you're technically still in celestial harmony. What? It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't make sense. It just enables themen so that they can be terrible to the women and just abandon them, and then it keeps the women trapped. And so I like that Meri's trying to help her realize that she'll help her do this if she needs to do this, because maybe she needs that kind of emotional support. So just so that I'm sure I'm good, if I were Tor Meri, maybe it's worth getting a spiritual divorce. This is kind of typical of mine. And Janelle's relationship. Both of us are very well aware of the fact that we've never been best friends. Also always put in the effort into our relationship as far as like doing the best for the family that we could. So we figured out how to eventually work for the good of the family, work as a team. Despite our differences of personality and opinion, I know that Meri and Janelle often will say that they don't get along, they don't see things in the same way. They will never be best friends, but they work together pretty well when they do have to work together. And I'm sure the fact that their relationship started off very rocky. Obviously, Janelle joined a family where she was the ex-sister-in-law of Meri, married to Meri's brother. I can't imagine it started off on the best footing. But at the end of the day, it's the 2 women that started the family, that are the 2 women that are figuring out how to make it fair, how to support one another, and how to help the other get the fair way out so that they can leave okay with dignity, and with a sense that there's nothing hanging over their heads that will keep them stuck. And does, and to me, that's what matters. So really, she's helping Meri get what's fair. Financially, Meri's helping Janelle see that she doesn't have to stay stuck. She can get out, she'll help her get out if she needs to go get the spiritual divorce. And ultimately, they can both leave then unencumbered. And ultimately, both of these things are going to ultimately piss off Kody and Robyn because it takes away the spiritual marriages. It takes away their ceilings. It further makes Kody a failure, and it takes away the finances that that Kody and Robyn feel so justified in doing. And really, to me, what this display is it's just a public way for the 2 of them to show unity, that we're not going to be messed with. We're going to be a united front on this, Kody and Robyn. You're not going to divide us. And if that's all it took for them to get fair, quitable division of the property at Coyote Pass, good for them. Good for them. There's more to this episode, and we'll get to it in another video, either later today or later this week. I still have much more to cover today when it comes to Blake Lively and Jed Wallace and all of the things that happened over the weekend. So what are your thoughts? Or Janelle and Meri sticking it to Robyn and Kody and coming together to get what's theirs? Tell me in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys.